How you doing? Raland J Brunson here, giving you a report on what's going on in this incredible, wild, and crazy lawsuit that we're doing, and answer some questions that have been asked of us. I know a lot of you are curious about what our plan is and what we're going to be up to, but I think what I want to do here is address a couple of questions or some questions that are big questions that maybe stump from you guys, because I'm sure that you've been in some sort of debate over this and you've been experiencing some incredible opposition. So maybe this might empower you. So before I really go into the plans of what we're doing with this lawsuit, let me address a couple of questions here and see if it might shed some light and empower you a little bit, because this is not a war against any party. It really isn't. It's fair for every party to know that their vote is going to count in any election coming up in the future, and that everybody who takes an oath has to keep it. So the bottom line of this lawsuit is about the goal and the objective about this lawsuit, and the intention of this lawsuit is the results that we want is that everybody in the government obeys their oath of office, which is to protect and support the Constitution against any enemy, whether it be domestic or foreign. And if that were the case, it wouldn't matter what party you belong to. You'd be doing a great job as a leader in this government. Here's the number one most popular question, that I want to address. Where does it show or say in the Constitution that the Supreme Court has the right to remove members of Congress from office? I have a question on top of that. Where in the Constitution does the Supreme Court have the right to judge any criminal case? Because this is a criminal case. You can call it a personal injury case, where an affliction was done to me as a result of the defendants breaking their oath of office. Now, when there was allegations of a rigged election on January the 6th, 2021, there was a vote, or an opportunity to vote if you wanted to investigate this election or not. And the people who voted against it personally damaged me and threatened my well-being and general sense of safety. And this is not negligence. Negligence is different. It's like if you hire someone, a security guard, to watch your place and they fell asleep at their post, well, maybe you can call that negligence. But if this security guard that you hired intentionally left their post, went down a couple of blocks, took the day off, took the night off, and then expected you to pay them, well, that would be a different story. This is the case. I paid these guys to do a job, to watch and protect the security of the Constitution, and they failed. All right? So, here's the next question. What about the president? How come you're not suing the President Trump? He was president at the time, and he didn't do anything about investigating the claims of a rigged election. Actually, he did. He called the cops. He witnessed the crime. Now, and I need to say this. This lawsuit, it has nothing to do with we saw a crime committed, and we're suing these people for committing a crime. You see, you can't sue people if they commit a crime. You call the cops. That's what you're supposed to do. But if the crime that you witnessed damaged you or injured you, well, then you can sue them. And that's what this is all about. Otherwise, you would not have what is called standing in court. Standing in court means that you are suing for relief from damages that you experience. So you just can't go to the court and complain about people. You'll get thrown out because you won't have standing. Well, in this case, you do have standing, okay? But President Trump at the time did everything he could to encourage an investigation. He did call the cop. In fact, he called Bill Barr, who was the head of the Department of Justice, and he said, Bill, listen, man, there's allegations of a rigged election. I'm getting phone calls from senators. I'm getting phone calls from congressmen. Election officials from Arizona and Pennsylvania are telling me that this needs to be investigated and that the election is rigged. I'm doing my part. I need you to obey your oath of office and do an investigation. Well, Bill Barr said, I don't need to do an investigation because the election was not rigged. So President Trump was ignored. So the next thing he did was he did what is called an executive order. You all know that. Well, he's the chief executive officer of this whole country, and he oversees all military and all branches, basically, mainly, except for the judicial branch. He's not over that. But anyway, getting back to the point, he did an executive order for this investigation to take place, and it was ignored. His executive order was ignored, okay? So the next thing he did is he drafted a memo, a letter, a really important letter for the January 6th, 2021 day and on the floor when the voting of all the elections was going to be certified. This is when they all got together to certify the election, okay? So the first thing that was done is he had the House of Representatives clerk read the letter, which is, I implore you, I'm not trying to disrupt the election process. I just want you to hold off. There's an you have to investigate. There's claims that this election is rigged. Okay, I've got witnesses saying that China is involved in messing around with the software and such and such and such and such. I got 10 senators talking to me. I got congressmen talking to me. I got election officials bugging me. Please, I implore you, I beg of you, hold off on certifying this election until there's an investigation. So, Mike Pence did his job. He actually did his job. What he did is he called for votes, okay? So should we hold off and investigate this election, or should we just accept the votes that are coming in and move on and certify it, okay? So he put the vote on the floor, and people were saying, yay, let's investigate this. Other people were saying no. And the opponents, and this is what's really interesting, the opponents who did not want to investigate were claiming that the whole idea of them being there was to certify the votes. That's it. The only reason why we're here, certify the votes. And the other side is like, excuse me, no, we have an opportunity to object to the votes that are presented before us before the certification. Otherwise, Mike Pence, who is in charge of the certification of these votes, wouldn't ask us, hey, and this is what he actually said to each state when the votes would come in. He said to the whole place, to all the representatives and all the senators, he said, are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of such and such, that the teller has verified appears to be regular, informed, and authentic? Is what you're presenting to me regular, informed, and authentic? That question right there shows the purpose of that whole meeting to certify the votes in the first place. Otherwise, why even ask that question? So the opponents to this investigation were saying, we're here to accept what the states have given us. This is the democratic way of doing things. We're interfering with this election. This is treason. We're not supposed to do this. And other people are like, no, to follow the oath of our office, to obey our oath in office, we must adhere and give attention to the allegation that this election is rigged and investigated. So Mike Pence said, okay, let's do the vote. Well, 2/3 of everyone voted against investigating this election. Therefore, they thwarted the investigation and broke their oath of office. Okay. Now let's go back to the question. Okay. What about the president? Okay. The president is immune to being sued or being prosecuted for criminal charges, right? Where in the Constitution does it say he's not immune? Okay, let's just explore where this immunity of the president came from. All right, now we're going to talk about the Department of Justice for a second here, because that's where the immunity came from. Okay, in 1973, in the midst of the Watergate scandal engulfing President Richard Nixon, the Justice Department's Oval Office of Legal Counsel decided to adopt an internal memo that a sitting president cannot be indicted. An internal memo, okay? Well, what's really interesting about that is the Supreme Court had a comment about the president being immune to criminal prosecution. And this is what the Supreme Court said about that. Okay, where can I find this? Okay, let's see here. First of all, the purpose of the Supreme Court which there's this thing called the Judiciary Act of 1789. I got this off of uscourts.gov. If that isn't an authentic resource, I don't know what is. It's called basically SCOTUS has what is called the power of judicial review. This is what I got off. I'll read it to you. The best known power of the Supreme Court is judicial review, or the ability of the court to declare a legislative or an executive act in violation of the Constitution. The court established this doctrine in the case of Marbury versus Madison in 1803. So the purpose of the Supreme Court, according to them, and no one argued with it, because who can argue with the Supreme Court, is to watch, keep an eye on this legislative branch of the government, and if they just so happen to pass a law that contradicted or became an enemy to the Constitution, the Supreme Court had the power to nullify it, delete it, get rid of it. This whole case is about that. We're telling the Supreme Court, hey, listen, there's this thing called this immunity, okay, that the Department of Justice invented out of thin air to protect the president. Okay, now this is interesting, okay. So President Nixon, the big Watergate scandal and all that kind of stuff, he used that in his defense. Where is it? Okay, so President Nixon, where's President? Okay, here we go. President Nixon had argued that he was immune to the judicial process. He has immunity, okay? He said, I got immunity, man. The Department of Justice says so. And by golly, otherwise, how can I pursue my executive position if I don't have immunity? I got to have immunity. I can't have all this stuff to deal with, okay? Now, here's what the Supreme Court said, okay? The Supreme Court unanimously, all of them, disagreed, holding that the doctrine of separation of powers nor the need for confidentiality of high-level communications unqualified presidential privilege of immunity from judicial process under all circumstances. He is not immune, excuse me, okay? The DOJ made that up, all right? And everyone thinks that it's like constitutional, it's a constitutional thing. Well, the constitutional reference that the opponents of our lawsuit says is that it's unconstitutional and it goes against the separation of powers to sue the president for a crime. The Supreme Court says, are you kidding me? It goes against the balance of power, the separation of powers. It goes against that if you can't sue him. And it also violates the First Amendment, which says that every one of us, all we the people, have the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And it doesn't say except the president. He can injure you all he wants, and he can get away with it. No, it doesn't say that. Every one of us has the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances, okay? So the Supreme Court says, the court noted that the constitutional duty of courts to do justice in criminal prosecutions was counterbalanced by the claim of presidential immunity. To accept the president's argument, the court further reasoned, would undermine the separation of powers that was at once was at the core of a workable government, as well as gravely empower the role of the courts under Article 3 of the Constitution. So it actually encourages the balance of power. Okay, but see, here's the big question, okay, that everyone's concerned about. If you can sue the president, then everybody in this nation can cause a lawsuit against the president, cause chaos, and it would be incredible to deal with, and it would be cumbersome. No, it's simple as that, okay? There are over 400 members of Congress, okay, compared to over 200 million Americans who have to follow the law. Now, if the government can, or the police in this nation, or the correctional officers in this nation can watch over hundreds of millions of Americans, then why can't they watch over 400 of members of Congress? Also, the U.S. attorneys can be involved. They're on salary, and if everybody in this nation wanted to do a lawsuit, they file they're saying, hey, listen, man, the president, it caused grievance with me. I have the right to petition the government, which they do. And they file a lawsuit in the court, file a complaint. The U.S. attorneys can get involved. Special counsel can be appointed to find out if their claim was frivolous or not, and not even cause cumbersome to the president at all. He wouldn't even have to know about it, okay? But if there was proof of serious allegations, then the U.S. attorneys have a right to appeal it. And if it's valid, eventually it would reach the Supreme Court, and eventually action would be taken place against the president. What a great way for a check and balance. You see, the thing of it is, it's like, if you can sue members of Congress, wouldn't that create chaos? Well, that's the whole point. See, that's a crummy little defense, and that's why the DOJ implemented that little policy in the first place, because they were, I don't know why they implemented it. It's like they had their motives, they had their reasons, but just to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they were scared that it would cause chaos and everybody in the country would want to file a complaint against the president, which I think is a great idea. Keep everything in check and keep everything organized. Okay, so I think I covered that about the president, okay? Now, here's the next question. I love this question coming up, okay? Your lawsuit is silly, ridiculous, and frivolous. Why don't you all get a clue and drop all of this nonsense? Well, I have to agree to it. I like the idea of dropping all nonsense. And anything that I'm doing, I am absolutely open for someone to point out that what I'm doing is a waste of time, because I don't want to waste my time on anything, right? And to drop all nonsense, which is something that I'm kind of a fan about. I like to be pointed out something to drop all this nonsense, but this lawsuit has to do with the nonsense of this lawsuit. Can I just address the nonsense part of this lawsuit? Is going after the removal of our defendants from office. That didn't come from us. That actually was not our idea. We were just quoting the law. Want me to show you? All right, where is that? Okay. It's in here somewhere. I got it in my notes, man. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, the 18 United States Code, the United States Criminal Code, Chapter 115 in the area of treason goes like this. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason. And is guilty of treason and hold on, is guilty of treason and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Well, we saw that and we're like, well, that makes sense if you give aid and comfort to an enemy of the Constitution. And then we hear some people say, well, if the seriousness of a rigged election, that's not so serious. Come on. Excuse me? It's pretty serious. Actually, that's classified as an act of war. And according to the Criminal Code, the U.S. Code 18, Chapter 115, it says that if you give aid and comfort to enemies that levy war, and therefore the enemies of the Constitution who are attempting to rig the election, and you give them comfort and aid, you've committed treason. I didn't make it up. We didn't make it up. We're just quoting the rules and the law. So if you think this lawsuit is frivolous, you're pointing at the wrong people. Point at the law, okay? That's all we're doing is quoting the law. And it's like, oh my gosh, people, we're on your side, okay? We're not your enemy. How could you? One person says, how could you? You're usurping the power of the Constitution to do your deed. Well, I'm hoping everyone will usurp the power of the Constitution. That's what it is there for, is to usurp it all the power, because the Constitution is built to give you power. And the whole idea is to usurp it as much as possible in order to establish freedom in this country. All right, where's my last question? Oh, I think that was my last question, okay? Back to our plan, okay, to secure the protection and the freedom of this country. There's a lot of complaints about what Congress does. I mean, I've heard it all my life, and we've always heard it. If you were to walk up to somebody and you were saying, hey, generally speaking, are you happy with Congress? You're going to get a negative response, guaranteed. But what people, generally speaking, have failed to realize is that the solution to all of this, the solution to an ineffective Congress or a Congress that's not doing what you think is a good job, is their oath of office. Their main job in Congress, as a congressperson or a senator or a congressman or congresswoman, is to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if they were to do that, we'd have an incredible, prosperous country. So you're probably saying to me, well, what can we do about it, man? We want to do something about this. And I appreciate that. I'm going to address that right now. And I'm going to attempt to give you an absolute simple solution. Number one, create awareness. And here's what you do. Here's the question you ask. And I wish I had it written down so I could show it up to you. But here's the question. I want you to memorize this question. When you're with someone, you ask them this simple question. I don't care who it is. And it won't cause a fight. I guarantee it will not cause a fight. Because whenever you're in a conflict with someone, whenever you're in an argument, you both lose. It's just how it is. You're not going to listen to anybody. So, this is the angle. Here's the question. Hey, I was thinking, what good is the oath of office if there's no penalty? I mean, why have it at all? I mean, shouldn't there be a penalty to breaking it? Or, start out with this. I was thinking, the oath of office, sworn to, you swear to protect and support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Is that really important? Start out with that one. Is that really important to swear an oath to protect and defend the Constitution? And if they say, absolutely not, then say, oh, well, I guess you're all for getting rid of the Constitution, huh? Absolutely. Then you can start the conversation of how the Constitution was built to promote and preserve prosperity to everyone, which is another subject, okay? After you get past that, well, did you know that that Congress, along with the DOJ, created this little rule? It's called immunity, where they can swear an oath to defend and protect the Constitution, but they created a rule, it's an immunity, that they're immune to accounting for it, which means that this little rule that the DOJ and the Congress put together years ago protects them, and they don't have to account to anybody. They can do whatever they want, up to the point, did you know that Congress right now, because they're unchecked, has the power to absolutely remove altogether the Supreme Court? I mean, they're the ones that created it in the first place. They can eliminate it. I mean, they're the top dog when it comes to this. Did you know that? And did you know that without this immunity clause, anyone in this nation can keep them in check? Old Betty Sue out there in Georgia can go to their local district court, pay the $300 and file a complaint that she doesn't like the way the president looks and considers that an offense to her personally and violated that person's oath of office. Well, it may sound frivolous, but if you were to follow the judicial system that was set up, her case would be heard on a small course, uncumbersome to anyone else, and checked to see if maybe she's got evidence that this actually damaged her and how far this can go. And if the judge is on her side, the U.S. attorney can appeal it to a higher court and get more people, more judges to have their say on it. And if it's frivolous, it gets dropped and thrown out the door. That's the ideal system. So here's what I suggest that we do. Okay, here's what you can do. Here's what a person can do. First of all, you can go to 7discoveries.com. Okay, the number 7. 7discoveries.com, and in there, for I think $1, you can download a copy of my complaint or my brother Loy's complaint. You copy that, you look at it, okay? You read it, okay? And what a person could do, is they can take our names off of it, put your name on it, meet with some other people and experts, tweak it if you want, to make it so you have even more standing in court, showing that you were personally injured, challenging the immunity part of the rule, show them that it goes against the First Amendment of your right to petition the government for grievances, and that it goes against the oath of office, and see if you get a judge on a lower court will side up with you. You do not underestimate the power of a lower court judge. They have the power to accept your case, not only just accept it, to grant your case, okay, and by order of the court, have all the defendants make them, by order of the court, they have 30 days to answer your complaint and explain why they voted to thwart the investigation. What a wild thing. We've never experienced that. We haven't had a chance for the defendants to have to answer our complaint because it's kept getting blocked and dismissed and blocked and dismissed. And that's why we're appealing to the Supreme Court. We're asking them, please, either you judge it, adjudicate it, judge it, okay, and execute it, or at least resurrect this sucker from the dead and give a court order for our defendants to answer the complaint and let this lawsuit go forward. Give them like 15, 30 days, whatever, to answer the complaint. That is what we're after, okay? So, back to what we're doing. Back to this petition for rehearing. I like the petition for reconsideration, because there was really never a hearing. It was behind locked doors, and they made their decision and talked about it and basically put on the docket, denied, without explaining why, which would have been kind of nice, wouldn't it, But it's not stopping us, okay? We're doing the petition for rehearing, which we have a chance to do. My brother Darren, he's a legal expert of this family, and he's working on it. Me and my brother Loy are giving him ideas and some suggestions, and maybe change this sentence around a little bit to make it more, give it more of a punch, okay? And it's based on the question, okay? Is the oath of office important? If the oath of office does not have a penalty, then why have it at all? And so we're working on that. But if we lose, we get that denied, okay, we've got our brother Loy's case is now free. We can put that on the docket, which we are planning on doing, okay, if my petition gets denied. Put that on the docket, start all over again. By this time, man, there's a lot more awareness. Maybe the Supreme Court is more like waking up, because this is a new thing. This is something that we're not used to. The Supreme Court is not used to this. They get cases of, the election is rigged and this is wrong and that's wrong. But when it comes to the actual oath of office, I haven't really seen too much of that going on. So this is like kind of like a new thing for them. So in the meanwhile, your case, if you decide to do this, okay, is filed and it's on its way to the Supreme Court. And I want you to know something, okay? I want you to know that if you do file this case, you spend your $300 and you push to overcome those two things, which is, number one, you have standing, which means you were personally injured, all right? You were experienced emotional assault and a threat to your well-being. Bring that out, okay? And then you challenge the immunity rule of this and show them that it contradicts the supreme law of the land, and you get denied, and you have it be dismissed, and you keep appealing that baby, you'll end up on the Supreme Court docket. And I want you to know, if you get there, you let me know, okay? You let us know, because I guarantee you, I'm going to take $1, okay, and I'm going to donate it to you for your cause. By the way, we all really appreciate your help on this. We've been working on a shoestring. My brother Loy has experienced a lot of damage when it comes to his property because of what he's doing and all this kind of stuff. We'd never expected to have people donate to us, but it's just been great. It's been such a comfort and such a great support. And if you want to, only if you want to, and you have an extra $1, okay, you want to donate to the cause, RalandBrunson.com. Otherwise, if you don't have that dollar, pray. I do believe in prayer. I believe in an almighty, loving creator who wants his children to be happy, and the only way you can be happy is if you are free, and this is what it's all about. Do the right thing, okay? Even if you know you're going to lose, even if you know that conversation, that small little conversation of, did you know that Congress right now, they created a rule, along with the help of the DOJ, that lets them do anything they want? You ask that question, you're doing the right thing. You create this awareness, and there's a rule that goes like this. If you do the right thing, a simple right thing, even if you know you're going to lose and you're going to hit the brick wall, the heavens will smile upon you. You will be loved by the light, and rainbows will follow your life, and you will become a magnet of prosperity and love. And if you keep doing the right thing, even if you know you will lose, even if you know it's going to be a waste of time, the heavens will rain down on you blessings, nurture you, assist you to grow strong, and you'll be a protection and a safety to other people and a blessing to everybody around you. God bless you. My brothers, my sisters, we the people, my friends, I appreciate you and I love you, and you've got my support. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.